Right, this is the first of a lot of videos based on Donovan. It's the first of 20 is how many there's going to be. So yeah, I hope I don't bore you too much on that. This first video just deals with the introduction. Um, and it's going to be reasonably long on account of that, but hopefully the rest of them won't be quite so long. The first thing to note really is the title of the essay, Can We Know God by Experience? And the point of this is to say, well, can we, make knowledge claims about God based upon religious experience? And we need, in the first instance, to kind of think to ourselves what might count as a knowledge claim. Well, a knowledge claim is essentially a claim of knowledge about God. So we knowledge that He exists, or knowledge that he has this or that nature or characteristic, or that he wills this or that. These are the sorts of things that we might consider as knowledge claims about God. And so can we use religious experience as a means to establishing knowledge claims about God? Now, the ultimate answer that Donovan is going to be getting to is no. That we cannot form knowledge claims about God based upon religious experience. But there are going to be one or two quite important caveats coming along the line, so do watch out for those. The number one of these, and this is something that we're going to talk about again and again and again, is that essentially what Donovan is saying is that we cannot form knowledge claims about God based upon religious experience alone. Which means that coupled with other things, we may be able to form knowledge claims about God, or that we might be able to establish something as about God on the basis of religious experience, or that religious experiences might have some purpose or function. So there's that. Now, okay, he starts off in his introduction by saying, well, why might people be arguing about this? Surely if you've had such an experience, that's all there is to it. And in this, he's setting up an approach that he's going to be kind of adopting in the first half of this essay, which is really to be kind of focusing on the role of intuition and the sense of just knowing. And we've got more to say about this over the course of this video, but essentially it is about this just knowing. And certainly some theologians and some believers might be inclined to say, well, I've had an experience, that's it, that's all I need, the experience is sufficient. And on a private level, this is almost certainly true. We can think of H.H. Farmer, who would say that if you've had an experience of God, then you just know, and that's all there is to it. And that's exactly what he said, and I would quote that. So certainly we can sort of start off by saying, well, actually this is an area in which kind of many believers might feel entitled to start saying this. But of course, saying that you just know is a risky business, and this is where he goes in the second paragraph. Just knowing is a risky business. There are all sorts of problems, and we can think of all sorts of examples where people have said that they just know, and it's led to problems. Gamblers, for instance, just know that their horse is coming in. Doesn't mean that it will. We might talk about, kind of much lauded women's intuition. I just know he's up to no good. Maybe, but maybe not. We don't just know at all. And there might be all sorts of other examples, and Donovan kind of notes that even tyrants and dictators have been led to kind of draw these sorts of statements. One of the most sort of famous examples in recent years would be Tony Blair saying that he just knew that it was right to send in military forces to Afghanistan and Iraq. And, I don't want to get into the discussion as to whether he was right or not, but certainly it was an open to doubt and open to question whether his just knowing was true. So we know that just knowing is definitely a risky business. But in the third paragraph, Donovan notes, but there are circumstances in which just knowing is plausible. We know that there are certain ways in which we just know, and we feel quite justified in holding it. I just know that it's wrong to let that child starve. So we might say that just knowing in the case of, moral claims or moral issues might be sufficient. I just know that 2 + 2 = 4. I just know mathematical claims. I can't necessarily prove them by argument, but I just know that they're true. I just know that I have 2 hands. These are all cases of just knowing. That was said by G.E. Moore when pressed on the issue of perception. So, whilst just knowing is a risky business, there are also circumstances in which we feel it is supportable and it is defensible. And that's important. That's important for us to kind of note. And the question ultimately that we're going to be gearing towards is, can we just know in relation to religious claims as well? Now, one last thing to note just before I kind of sign off on this video and we move on to section 2 is the definition that Donovan gives of intuition. Because this just knowing he calls intuition, and he defines intuition in the third paragraph as a direct, convincing way of knowing that needs no further argument. And that's what we need to be kind of, using as our definition. I strongly suggest that you quote that and that you use that very early on in any essay on Donovan, and that you bring that into play. So, the headline. Donovan asks, can we just know in relation to God? Believers would say yes, but just knowing is risky. But there are some reliable cases of just knowing. So, here's the question. Are we entitled to say that we just know in relation to religious matters? And from that, we set up into section 2, which is really where the essay truly begins.